Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on this fine, beautiful planet. Today's movie is a movie that we're all pretty familiar with, but we all love it so much, and that movie is Paul Thomas Anderson's 2007 film, There Will Be Blood. Directed by Paul Thomas Anderson and based loosely on Upton Sinclair's 1927 novel Oil, is a critically acclaimed epic about the rise of a ruthless oil man in the early 20th century. Starring Daniel Day-Lewis as Daniel Plainview, the film explores themes of greed, ambition, capitalism, and religion. It's set against the backdrop of the American oil boom. It is widely regarded as one of the greatest films of the 21st century, praised for its direction, cinematography, score, and Day-Lewis's towering performance. That's right, this movie is amazing. I actually never saw it in its initial run. I thankfully am a member of the AC, the American Cinematheque, out here in beautiful Los Angeles, California. I hesitated there because, I mean, it can be beautiful, but it's also not beautiful at the same time. I'm just speaking the truth, people. Anyway, that being said, There Will Be Blood is fantastic. I got to see it on 35mm once upon a time, not too long ago, actually. But the movie, it's so good. This movie's so good. It's just like, it is just wow. From the performances, the direction, like everything about it is phenomenal. Easily probably one of Anderson's best films. The film follows the story of Daniel Plainview, a fiercely driven prospector who turns into a successful oil man. The narrative tracks his rise from digging small wells to becoming a powerful oil tycoon. As his empire grows, so does his moral and emotional descent. The film's central conflict revolves around Plainview's interactions with Eli Sunday, played by Paul Dano, a charismatic preacher whose ambitions for his church clash with Plainview's greed. Their escalating battle over land and power becomes a symbolic struggle between capitalism and religion. The movie climaxes in a brutal, symbolic showdown between the two men, culminating in the now famous line, "I drink your milkshake," delivered by Daniel Plainview. The ending of this movie. I mean, you can't even just single out the ending of this movie. This whole movie in general, like Daniel Plainview, the character, is such an asshole. The he's not a good person. And I think that I said this before in videos, and I mean, it's just always true that, you know, writer-directors usually will incorporate as much personal information as they usually do, but underlining it with the whole fiasco that is movies. So this movie, you kind of question. I feel like PTA really had to say something to his dad. If you've seen this movie, I feel like you should know what I'm saying. This isn't a therapy session. This is just let's talk about a cool movie. The film is a powerful meditation on the destructive nature of unchecked ambition and greed. Daniel Plainview's singular pursuit of wealth destroys his relationships, morality, and ultimately his humanity. Eli Sunday's role as a preacher symbolizes the corrupting power of organized religion. The film juxtaposes Eli's religious ambition with Daniel's capitalistic drive, showing both as manipulative forces that exploit the weak. The father-son relationship between Daniel and HW, his adopted son, serves as an emotional thread throughout the film. Daniel's eventual rejection of HW reflects his inability to love or maintain meaningful relationships, driven by his obsession with success. What Daniel Plainview does to his adopted son HW is pretty wild. It's pretty crazy. It's a thing. And I mean, there's just moments when, I mean, straight like just abandons his child and all this stuff. And there's a really just epic moment that happens when Daniel Plainview is at Eli's church, and like he's like, you know, sucking the soul, like the bad out of him and all this stuff. Oh, it's so good. I want to go watch this movie now. Known for his method acting, Daniel Day-Lewis stayed in character as Daniel Plainview throughout the filming of There Will Be Blood. To prepare for the role, he researched the period extensively, watched films from the era, and even adopted the voice of Plainview after listening to recordings of 19th century Texas preachers. His performance earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor. Daniel Day-Lewis gets praise for acting probably for every single movie that he does, but hands down, I personally think that this is easily his best performance. Originally, Paul Dano was only cast in the small role of Eli Sunday's brother, Paul. However, after the actor originally cast as Eli was fired, Paul Thomas Anderson rewrote the script and gave Dano the dual role of both Eli and Paul Sunday. Dano was given only a few days to prepare for Eli, a role that became one of the film's central figures. Yeah, I've always heard about this and I've always found that so interesting. And also, I guess maybe a way to save some cash too. I don't know. The iconic line, "I drink your milkshake," was inspired by a real-life congressional testimony from a U.S. senator. In 1924, Senator Albert Fall used the metaphor of drinking a milkshake to describe how one oil company could siphon off oil from another company's land by drilling diagonally. PTA found this during his research and incorporated it into the film's climatic scene. Yeah, whenever I do this, it's kind of like half-ass internet research, you know? So you never know what's true, what's right, what's wrong. So during my research, that's what I found. So sorry if I'm just making up lies here. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a YouTuber, so I don't really give a shit. Paul Thomas Anderson has said that the stark, expansive landscapes of There Will Be Blood were inspired by the work of painter Edward Hopper. The film's visual style, shot by cinematographer Robert Elswit, who won the Oscar for Best Cinematography, emphasized the isolation and desolation of the oil fields, contributing to the film's haunting atmosphere. Which, yeah, I mean, this movie is so beautiful to watch. It's even better like on a huge screen and you're getting to watch it all in that aspect. Very, very beautifully shot scene because of the landscape and all that stuff. And I believe that this is true, but upon research, and this is kind of like, I mean, I've heard this, like, it's always been said, that apparently the Coen brothers were shooting No Country for Old Men like not far away from where Paul Thomas Anderson was filming There Will Be Blood. And during the whole oil rig fire that happens in the movie, there's like a cloud of smoke that happened, and like No Country for Old Men had to stop filming due to like it was like destroying like their views in their like movie, which also takes place at like nowhere, Texas. I don't know how true that is, but like I've always heard and read about that, so I found that just so interesting. Which, speaking of the huge oil rig explosion scene, it was one of the most technically challenging moments to shoot. The explosion was real and the fire burned so intensely that filming had to be stopped for several days. The scene's scale and realism are a testament to Anderson's preference for practical effects over CGI. And much of the film was shot in Marfa, Texas. Marfa's expansive landscapes provided the perfect setting for the film's oil boom scenes. The wooden church in the film was built entirely from scratch, adding to the authenticity of the period. During one of the most intense drilling scenes, Daniel Day-Lewis suffered an actual broken rib after he threw himself into the work so vigorously. Rather than halt production, he continued filming, working through the pain. Yeah, once again, I don't that's the first time like I came across that and I was like, that's interesting. We could throw that in this video. The final violent confrontation between Daniel and Eli, set in Daniel's opulent mansion bowling alley, has become one of the most iconic scenes in modern cinema. The scene's bizarre and unsettling energy, combined with Daniel Day-Lewis's explosive delivery, cemented the film's status as a modern classic. Can't really express so much more on that last scene. It's a great last scene, but the whole movie, that last scene though, I feel like it works because of the lead up and the whole journey that you're going on to get to that moment. It's just like, whoa. It's so good. I mean, the acting, the outcome, all that stuff. I'm not going to say what happens if you haven't seen the movie. This is actually probably one of the more spoiler-free type reviews. I feel like when I do like the drama movies or a non-horror movie, there's nothing really to spoil. So there's that. There Will Be Blood was both a critical and commercial success. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards and won 2 Best Actor for Daniel Day-Lewis and Best Cinematography for Robert Elswit. Its exploration of greed, ambition, and the corrupting power of wealth has been compared to films like Citizen Kane and Chinatown. Paul Thomas Anderson's direction and Daniel Day-Lewis's towering performance have solidified There Will Be Blood as one of the defining films of the 21st century. Yeah, I'm like out here waiting for the Criterion release of There Will Be Blood. Like, where's that at? Let's go. Also, where is the Hard 8 Criterion? Like, let's go. Like, let's give Hard 8, Paul Thomas Anderson's very, very first movie, a proper release, because I have it, like, it's only available on DVD and it's 2024. Let's get with the program. Anywho, that is today's video. Wanted to just like get this one out because it's such a great movie, and I'm also like, once again, these things are so easy to film, and I just like it's a nice little refresher to get away from work for a second, just kind of do something for myself really quick that doesn't take up too much time. I do these on like my lunch break essentially, and then jump back into work. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so maybe I'll continue doing this. I know I'll continue probably doing these up until I make my own movie Cyclaville next year, or I'll just stop doing this when I get bored. And because it's like I'm not here for the YouTube world or anything like that. It's just a platform to throw bullshit on. So maybe I'll do it again sometime soon.